So here we are. It's Lent. And I'm just going to say two things, and I hope you'll see how they seem to contradict each other. And that's partly what we're doing now, is just working out, is there a contradiction here? So the first thing to say is something very undeep. I know there's a word shallow, but undeep seems to express it a bit more clearly. That Lent is about doing things. Lent is about doing things. It's about praying, fasting, and almsgiving. Following Jesus into the wilderness, dicing with death, and dancing with the angels, and accompanying actively those of our students who are preparing to be baptised in this chapel at the Easter Vigil. So let's do something. Today, let's roll up our sleeves and make a clear decision to actively live Lent so that our lives actually look and feel different. Many of you were at Mass on Ash Wednesday. There were over 200 people here at Newman House and dozens more in the college masses throughout the diocese. You allowed the priest to mark your forehead with a huge black cross, God's own graffiti, not on a wall or a bus stop, but on your very flesh, your inner baptismal faith becoming visible for all to see. If only you'd had the nerve to take a selfie on the way home and changed the picture on your Facebook profile for these 40 days, then people would know you were a Christian. Because very often, our inner Christian faith is completely invisible to others. Just ask yourself, if you had a drone following you around with a webcam attached, you know those mini helicopters with 4 blades that you can buy at Maplin's for £100? And this drone is tracking you for 7 days from the moment you leave Mass this morning till the moment you come back to Mass the following Sunday. It's sending images back to a sociology of religion student at SOAS. Would the SOAS students giggling on the back row there? Would there be, this is the question for this PhD student, would there be any external evidence at all that you are a Christian? That you do Christian things and that you avoid doing things that are counter-Christian? Would there be any visible difference to this drone, to this webcam, between your life and the life of a non-Christian with another drone following him or her? Maybe. Maybe not. Lent is about making sure that we have some evidence against us. Yes, she prayed. Yes, she fasted and abstained. Yes, she did works of mercy. She was a Christian. Here's the evidence, something that will stand up in a court of law or in a SOAS PhD thesis. Something that will be an example to the students here who are preparing for their own baptism at Easter and wondering, does this really make a difference? Now, be careful here, because Christianity is not about doing things in order to be seen. And in the Gospel on Ash Wednesday, Jesus specifically warned us against this. No, but it is about doing concrete things that make a real difference and then trying to keep them hidden. Jesus doesn't say stop praying. He says pray in secret behind a closed door. He doesn't say stop fasting. He says keep fasting but without drawing attention to yourself. So what can we do? What can you do? Well, let me be ultra practical with you and give you some suggestions. You won't remember all these, and the idea is not to take away a list. It's just to see, does something strike you here? Speak to your heart, stay in your memory, and it helps you to think, I want these 40 days to be different. And I'm going to put these on the Facebook site with some other ideas, just so that you've got something to think about tonight. Almost like a list here. How can I pray? You could pray for 10 minutes each day. Or you could decide to come to weekday Mass once during each week. You could read the Gospels, 1 chapter a day. You probably get through 2 Gospels. You could decide maybe not to pray the whole rosary every day, but to pray 1 decade of the rosary. 3 minutes. You could come to exposition here for a few minutes on Tuesday evening. You could pray the Stations of the Cross here in the chapel on Friday at 6, or any time at home each Friday. You could download the Pray As You Go app and pray with that prayer each day. Takes about 10 minutes. Fasting. What can you do? It needs to be more than chocolate. Yeah? Chocolate's okay when you're 6, but you're not 6. It needs to be something that bites into our life a little bit and touches us and annoys us. Because that's part of the reason to fast. It's to let go. It's to let this discipline impinge on us. So here are some suggestions. Give up meat for Lent. From now, I know we've missed 3 days, but just think about it. Or to give up alcohol for this time. Or to give up anything sweet. Or to decide not to eat between meals. Or to give up hot drinks. Or to fast on Fridays. Not just to abstain, but to fast. To replace 1 meal with bread and water. To give up Facebook or TV for the whole Lent, probably too hard. Or for every Friday of Lent, maybe. Or for every evening after 9 p.m. or whatever. Almsgiving. How can you do works of mercy for others? Well, don't forget the very foundations of alms, which is to give money to those in need. So maybe you could set aside a certain amount each week. It might be £5, it might be 10, who knows? But to give that to charity, and to a charity that directly helps the poor. Promise yourself, here's another one. I'm not saying this because of Newman House, there's nothing intended here, to wash up whatever cups or plates you find in the communal sink. Most of us live with others. We find the cup that someone else left. What a vow to make during Lent. I'm going to clean it, whoever left it, even if it's not my fault. To call on the phone or Skype one person you know you should be in touch with, but you're not. A lovely little almsgiving discipline. To actively thank or praise one person each day. And if you get to the evening and you haven't done it, to send them a message on Facebook doing just that. And just for fun, I found these on the internet last night. You could give up mirrors for Lent. Or you could decide, if you use the tube, to abandon the lifts and the escalators. Look, these are lists, and it sounds very legalistic and crude and even materialistic. I'm trying to provoke you. I'm having a bit of fun. But there's a serious point. Lent is about our lives looking different and doing something. It might not seem very spiritual. Well, I'm just making this promise. But in the Christian tradition, the Spirit gives shape to matter. It transforms it. It was Valentine's Day last week, wasn't it? Imagine saying to your beloved, well, I didn't give you a card or some flowers or a box of chocolates because my love is a profound inner spiritual reality. What would you say in reply? You'd say, that's beautiful, but I just wish to God you'd bothered to spend $1.99 in Hallmark to buy me a card. Prayer, fasting, almsgiving. They express the inner reality of faith and they help it to become more real. My second point, don't worry, is much, much shorter, but it's just to give a contrast, an important one. If Lent is about doing things, the second point, Lent is about not doing things. It's about what God has done for us. It's the Lord God saving Noah from the flood in the first reading, and him putting the rainbow in the sky, not us. It's Jesus in the second reading conquering the spiritual forces of darkness and setting us free. It's Jesus in the gospel defeating Satan in the desert, telling us that the time is fulfilled and that God's kingdom is close at hand. It's all his work. It doesn't depend on what we do or don't do. It's a sheer, unmerited gift. God's love, his mercy, his promise of salvation. And you see, the things that we do during Lent, and we must do them, they are about making space to see what God is doing. To pray is to make a tiny space in our day to see and hear what God is doing in our lives. To fast is to let the deepest needs of my heart come to the surface, to clear away the distractions so that I can walk towards the Lord unburdened. To give alms is to go beyond my own needs and to see the needs of another. It's not actually doing, it's getting rid of doing and opening out to others. Clearing away, as Pope Francis said, the indifference that affects so much of our lives. So Lent is about doing. Think of how you can pray and fast and give alms this Lent. We should work hard at this. But all of this doing is really an undoing, an opening, a loosening. It's like cleaning a dirty window. At last, we can peer through to the other side and see the amazing things that God is doing. As Steve Hoyland said to us last week in the Week of Guided Prayer, if we are generous with God, he will be even more generous with us.